Everything you see around you exists only because the universe is tuned with terrifying precision. Shift just one parameter, just a little, and there would be no stars, no water, no air, no you. Not figuratively, literally. Today, we're going to break down the 4 forces that keep the world from falling apart. You'll see why these forces hold atoms together, ignite the sun, and make life on Earth possible. And the deeper we go, the harder it becomes to dismiss all of this as mere accident. In the vast reaches of space and in the tiny world of atoms, 4 fundamental interactions are at work. They affect absolutely everything: stars, planets, chemical elements, you. If these forces were not tuned with extraordinary precision, carbon, oxygen, and iron would not exist, and without them, life would be impossible. The first force is gravity. The second is electromagnetism. And this is where things start to get truly strange. If the electromagnetic interaction were weaker, electrons would not stay bound to the nucleus, which means atoms could not join together to form molecules. No water, no air, no cells, no life. Picture a simple magnet on your refrigerator. It sticks to metal because of electromagnetic force. Now imagine that force disappears. The magnet falls. But at the atomic level, it wouldn't just be the magnet falling. Matter itself would fall apart. And if the electromagnetic interaction were stronger, a different problem would appear. Electrons would not be able to break away from the nucleus, which means chemical reactions would become impossible, and life would disappear again, just for a different reason. That alone is enough to understand this. Our lives depend on the incredibly precise tuning of this force. But here's the most important part. That precision is not only needed inside atoms, it is also needed on the scale of the entire solar system. The slightest change in the electromagnetic interaction would affect the sun. The light reaching Earth would change, and then everything starts collapsing. Photosynthesis, oxygen, the properties of water. So this is not abstract physics. This is the very foundation of life. But that's still not all. What matters is not just electromagnetism itself, but also how it relates to the other forces. And this is where the numbers become so extreme that they almost stop sounding believable. According to physicists, the electromagnetic interaction must be stronger than gravity by a number with 40 zeros. It seems like adding one more zero would change nothing, but this is exactly where the universe reveals how fragile it really is. If gravity were weaker, stars would be smaller. The pressure inside them would not be enough to raise the temperature to the point where nuclear fusion begins. Put simply, the sun would never ignite. To picture this more clearly, think of a pressure cooker. It cooks faster because the pressure inside rises, and with it, the temperature. No pressure means no required temperature. No required temperature means the food does not cook. The same thing happens inside a star. Without enough gravity, thermonuclear fusion never starts. And without that, the sun does not shine. And if the sun does not shine, we are not here. But gravity being too strong would also be a disaster. If it were only slightly stronger, stars like the sun would burn out much faster. So it is not enough for a star to simply ignite. It also has to burn for exactly long enough for life to appear and develop. And this is where a very revealing analogy comes in. For a car engine to work properly, it needs a precise ratio of air and fuel. That is why engineers build complex control systems to regulate it. If that kind of precision is necessary even for an ordinary engine, then what does that say about the sun? A gigantic thermonuclear reactor on which life on an entire planet depends. Who or what tuned it so precisely? And that's still not the end, because the next 2 forces are hidden deeper, right inside the atomic nucleus. Besides gravity and electromagnetism, 2 more interactions shape our lives. They operate inside the nucleus of the atom, and without them, the world would also fall apart, only this time from the inside. One of them is called the strong interaction. It is the force that holds protons and neutrons together inside the atomic nucleus, even though, at first glance, protons should repel one another. Imagine a handful of marbles constantly flying apart in different directions. Now imagine a glue of unimaginable strength holding them together. Very roughly speaking, that is how the strong interaction works. It is because of this force that chemical elements exist at all. Light ones like helium and oxygen, heavy ones like gold and lead. In other words, everything our world is made of. If the strong interaction were weaker by just a couple of percent, the universe would most likely contain only hydrogen. If it were slightly stronger, hydrogen would disappear entirely, and that is no longer just fine-tuning. That is the boundary between a universe that can exist and one completely unfit for life. Without hydrogen, the sun would have no fuel. There would be no water, no food, no us. But even now, the picture is still not complete, because it is not enough to have matter and fuel. Everything also has to run at the right pace, and this is where the fourth force enters the picture, the weak interaction. The name sounds modest, but its role is enormous, because it regulates the speed of the processes on which life depends. The weak interaction governs radioactive decay and affects the sun's thermonuclear activity. Physicist Freeman Dyson explained it this way: it is weak by exactly the amount required for hydrogen in the sun to burn slowly and steadily. Not too fast, not too slow, exactly right. Think about a gas burner on a stove. Too much flow and the flame becomes dangerous. Too little and the fire goes out. It needs precise control. Almost the same thing happens in the sun. The weak interaction prevents it from flaring up too violently or burning out too soon. It holds the balance without which life would never have had in time to appear. Because of this fine-tuning, Earth is not scorched and not dead. We live inside a narrow corridor of conditions where life is even possible. And this is not only about the sun. Scientists believe the weak interaction also plays an important role in supernova explosions. And that is where many chemical elements are created and spread across the universe. Which means that if the nuclear forces were even slightly different, stars would not have been able to produce the elements we ourselves are made of. Now try to see all of this at once, not separately, but as one unified system of precise tuning. Imagine a vast control center of the universe. In front of you are endless rows of regulators. Each one controls something different: gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces, the properties of particles. And every single one is set to exactly the point at which life becomes possible. Move one slightly to the left, and stars collapse. Move one slightly to the right, and the necessary elements disappear. One wrong adjustment, and the universe as we know it is gone. That is the analogy offered by Paul Davies. All of these values could have been different, but even the slightest change would have destroyed the entire structure of the universe. And this is where the central question appears, the one that is already impossible to ignore. Is all of this the result of a blind process, or is there intention behind it? Astronomer George Greenstein said that as we study the facts, we return again and again to the thought of an intelligent force at work. Is it possible that in studying the structure of the universe, we have unexpectedly come across traces of a higher mind? And if so, what exactly are we looking at? Because thanks to the precise tuning of the fundamental interactions, the sun exists, Earth exists, water, atmosphere, and the chemical elements necessary for life all exist. But the main question remains open. Where did this precision come from? Who set all these parameters in such a way that life could appear in the universe? And if there really is something intelligent behind all of this, then we are facing a force with immense knowledge, astonishing power, and a design that reaches far beyond mere chance.